What's going on, friends? Welcome back to College Sports Corner. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving weekend. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, and the Thanksgiving weekend's coming to an end. Hope you have the days off. You know, a lot of people they have to work on Thanksgiving, unfortunately, and the Friday. Hopefully, you have some days off to relax, eat, enjoy family, friends, whatever you did. We're doing our week 13 last full weekend of college football of the season. Kind of sad, but like we say, all good things must come to an end. We will have championship weekend next weekend with a few teams still finishing up their season. There'll be a few more games besides the championship games. But this is our week 13 review. Sorry about that, hit the table. We're going to go over that. We got a lot of news items. A lot of news items, especially came down within the last 12, 13 hours. We're going to get to those right now. Before we start, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. And let's get to it. Okay. This was actually announced yesterday. Matt Rhule, he's going to be the new coach at Nebraska. Had a lot of success at Baylor, not so much success in Carolina, but he's one of those guys that's probably more of a college coach than a pro coach. Just look at some of these others, Spurrier, Nick Saban, Lou Holtz, all did better in college than they did in pros and had a lot of success. So I think he's a good fit here at Nebraska. It's probably exactly what they need, actually. So it's going to be great to see what he does next year. Oregon offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham, he's going to be the new Arizona State head coach. I was just reading on Twitter a few minutes ago. He gave an excellent press conference. I'm going to have to go back and look that up and watch it. A lot of people saying that was probably one of the best press conferences that they've been to for a new coach hire. And these guys said they've been to a lot of them. So definitely, if you get some time to go look that up, I know I am. Let's see what else. David Shaw. After 12 seasons, he is stepping down to Stanford. I don't know what the hell is going on at Stanford the last few years because they used to be a powerhouse, and a few years they were a national powerhouse. I don't know. It's like ever since COVID happened, they just haven't been the same Stanford team. So like I said, I don't know what's going on there. So they're going to be looking for a new coach. And this came out just about a few minutes ago. Wisconsin, I read two different things. They're looking at Luke Fickell, and they're expected to make Luke Fickell an offer to become the new head coach in Wisconsin. And a lot of people are on Twitter, experts, are saying that the intern coach of Wisconsin, Leinhard, is that his name? Leinhard? Evidently, he's a good defensive coach, so he's probably going to get a DC job somewhere across the country. We'll see where that happens at. Let's see. Lance Leopold at Kansas. He gets a contract extension. Lane Kiffin signs a contract extension at Ole Miss. He shot down those Auburn rumors a few days ago. HBU. Well, it was HBU here in the Houston area. Houston Baptist, they changed the name to Houston Christian because they got all kinds of people from different religions coming there. They've had one coach in their short little 10-year period. Vic Shealy, he went ahead and resigned on Tuesday, saying program would be in better shape with a new coach. But that's pretty cool. You start up a program. You hit up a program that starts from scratch, kind of like Larry Coker did at UTSA several years ago. So he's going to hand it off to somebody else to see what else they can do. So we'll see what happens there. Did you see the Iowa-Minnesota game? This is from last weekend. I watched this game. I didn't realize this until it came out. That was the first FBS football game since 1986 with absolutely zero penalties. Didn't occur to me when I was watching it. I was just watching how defensive a game it was. That's pretty cool. I mean, every game we see penalties out the ass, something out the ass, but pretty cool, I thought. Running back Trey Sanders of Alabama, he's going to enter the transfer portal. Came down this week that 7 Michigan State football players are being charged, one being charged with a felony following that fiasco in the Michigan tunnel last month. They're going to go ahead and press charges on some of these guys. Like they said, one of them, he's facing felony charges. I don't remember the name of the guy swinging the helmet, but it kind of makes me wonder if it's him. Texas tight end Jaleel Billingsley, no longer with the team. He transferred from from Alabama. And he was actually suspended the first six games of this season. No reason given, but he left and said he was leaving for whatever reason. I don't know. Nebraska wide receiver Trey Palmer. He's going to enter the NFL draft. And SMU quarterback Tanner, I always say his name wrong, even though I hear it right all the time. Mordecai, maybe that's it, Tanner Mordecai. He's going pro after this season. And I just seen something a little earlier that he's been actually playing hurt the last couple of weeks. So anyway, that's your news. Let's get to these games. We're going to go back to Thanksgiving night. Egg Bowl, which was a pretty damn good game. Mississippi State beats Ole Miss by 2, 24-22. Rebels led by 2 at halftime. Rogers for Mississippi State, 239 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. Marks, 76 rushing yards, a touchdown. Griffin had a 19-yard touchdown catch. Thomas had a 22-yard touchdown catch. Mississippi State was 8 for 16 on third down. Ended up with 336 total yards. For Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, 250 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Wade had a 23-yard touchdown catch. Cruz kicked 3 field goals for Ole Miss. Ole Miss was 4 for 17 on third down. 3 for 4 on fourth down, not too bad. 335 total yards. They did have a lot of drop passes. I know it seemed like every other pass that Dart threw to somebody, they dropped it. And a lot of those would have put them in some good field position. But, I mean, it was raining, but still, we see passing games work all the time in the rain, and drop balls aren't an issue. But they were Thursday night. I don't know what was going on there. Anyway, both teams in their season, 8-4. Friday, Eastern Michigan defeated Central Michigan 38-19. This is actually a 1-point game at halftime. Eastern Michigan's Powell, 266 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Emmanuel Jr. for Central Michigan, 75 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Not too bad for him. Eastern Michigan 8-4. Central Michigan 4-8. Western Michigan defeated Toledo 20-14. A lot of people didn't see this one coming. Toledo's actually a pretty good team. This was a 3-point game at halftime. Western Michigan's Tyler, 131 rushing yards and a touchdown. Kenny H. Lovely, 36-yard pick 6 for them. Toledo's Gleason, 200 passing yards, touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. The Western Michigan defense did sack him 6 times and forced 4 turnovers in this one. And Western Michigan wins the game. They were only 2. They were 2 for 20 on third down. They still won this game. Western Michigan 5-7. Toledo finishes at 7-5. Texas 38, Baylor 27. This was a 2-point game at the half. Texas Robinson, 179 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Great game for him. Ewers, 194 passing yards and a rushing touchdown. Johnson, he also had 2 rushing touchdowns for the Longhorns. For the Bears, Chapin, 179 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Hall had a 16-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. Baylor defense actually had 3 sacks and forced 2 turnovers in this one. Texas 8-4, Baylor 6-6. Baylor, they weren't expecting this. They're going to see what they do in the offseason to fix all these issues they got. This one was a really good game. I watched this one. Tulane 27, Cincinnati 24. This is a 2-point game, what a 2-point game? What am I talking about? I don't know. Anyway, Tulane's Pratt, 162 passing yards and a touchdown. Spears, he ran for 181 and 2 touchdowns for the Green Wave. Ambrosia, 2 field goals. For Cincinnati, Montgomery, 95-yard rush for 2 touchdowns. McClellan had a 35-yard TD run. Tulane, 10-2. Cincinnati, 9-3. Tulane will host the AAC championship game next week. Didn't check to see who they play, but you can check that out for themselves if you're interested. Boise State beat Utah State 42-23. Boise's Green, 220 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. McAllister had 2 touchdown catches. See if I can say this guy's name. Oladipo? 48-yard pick 6. That's pretty badass. Legis for Utah State, 306 passing yards, touchdown. He did throw 2 picks. Vaughn had 8 catches for 148 yards and a touchdown. Boise ends at 9-3. Utah State 6-6. Utah State's been a good team the last few years. I get their quarterback went out. Maybe that had something to do with it. But it seems like they were struggling before he went. What was his name? Logan Bonner. Looks like Utah State was kind of struggling even when he was playing. So maybe just have other issues on that team. What they call battle in the desert, duel in the desert. Arizona 38, Arizona State 35. I caught the tail end of this one, but it looks like I should have watched the whole game, even though the Tulane-Cincinnati game was good. Wiley for Arizona, 214 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Defense forced 5 turnovers, but Arizona did have 10 penalties for 125 yards. Arizona State's Borjewit, 376 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He threw 2 picks. Valladay, 97 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Sanders, 127 receiving yards and a touchdown. Arizona 5-7. Arizona State finishes 3-9. Arizona, along with Cal, big improvements from where they were the last few years. I think those teams are on the right track. We'll see what happens with Arizona State with Dillingham taking over. So, hey, Arizona Stools might be somebody to worry about here over the next couple of years. Crazy game here. North Carolina State 30, North Carolina 27. Went into 2 overtimes. North Carolina State's Finley, 271 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Carter, 130 receiving yards and a touchdown. Kicker for NC State, Dunn. He's made all his field goals all season. And then as soon as the announcer says something, hey, he's hit every field goal this season. He's only one of 2 FBS kickers that have done that. Misses the field goal. Even his buddy in the booth said, way to go, man. So, May for North Carolina, Drake May, 233 passing yards, a touchdown. He rushed for a touchdown, threw an interception. Burnett, unfortunately, missed a field goal in overtime, so he lost. It was kind of a crazy game because you figured rivalry game, playing at home, North Carolina, and having Drake May, North Carolina would come out on fire, but that's not what happened. The Wolfpack dominated the first 3 quarters. Finally, in the 4th quarter, North Carolina woke up and they just started playing. And it's like, why didn't you play like this the whole game? But anyway, they got Clemson in the ACC championship game next weekend. So NC State 8-4, North Carolina 9-3. That is their records finishing up the regular season. Well, North Carolina got that extra game. Kind of a crazy game. I didn't see this one. I just saw highlights. Missouri 29, Arkansas 27. Cook from Mizzou, 242 passing yards, a touchdown. Ran for 138 yards and a touchdown. KJ Jefferson for Arkansas, 212 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, a rush for a touchdown. Arkansas defense had 7 sacks in this game, so they were really pouring it on. Arkansas only had 2 penalties for 11 yards in this game, so I'm sure Sam Pittman was happy about that. Both teams in the regular season 6-6. Definitely know this is not what Arkansas had envisioned for this year, especially after last year. Hey, it's college football. All kinds of crazy crap happens, doesn't it? Colorado State beat New Mexico 17-0. Millen for Colorado State, 214 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Horton, 131 receiving yards and a touchdown. Colorado State ended up with 305 total yards. New Mexico got a lot of work to do in that program. They only had 9 first downs. They were 2 for 16 on 3rd down. They only had 62 passing yards and 71 rushing yards. A lot of work to do there. Colorado State 3-9. New Mexico 2-10. And not too long ago, New Mexico was a decent team. I don't know, about early to mid 2000s. They weren't a bad team. I don't know what's going on there. Nebraska beats Iowa 24-17. I think that cost Iowa a spot in the Big Ten championship game too. Nebraska's Thompson, 278 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Palmer, 165 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Their defense forced 4 turnovers in this game. Iowa, Petrus, he went out in the first quarter with an injury. Padilla came in, 141 passing yards and a touchdown. Johnson, 109 rushing yards and a touchdown. Iowa didn't score until the second half because Nebraska led this one 17-0 at halftime. But Nebraska, after everything that's happened to them, finished 4-8 this year. Iowa, after everything that's happened to them, finished 7-5 because remember those offensive performances the first half of the season from Iowa? It's like there was no offense. It was crazy. So to finish 7-5, you got to be happy about that, especially the way the season started for you. UCLA 35, Cal 28. And Cal, we talked about them, they led by 4 points at halftime. They gave UCLA a game there for a while. UCLA's DTR, 189 passing yards, a touchdown. He also rushed for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. They had 33 first downs in this game. Plummer for Cal, who's a decent quarterback, 294 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. Got to look up, see if he's coming back, because that'll really help Cal next year. Hunter, 153 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. They only had 15 first downs in this game. UCLA 8-3, Cal 4-7. So they might be on their way up. Played a lot better this year than they have the last few years. Crazy ass game to end Black Friday night, I think as you call it. Florida State 45, Florida 38. 3-point game at the halftime. Florida State's Travis, 270 passing yards, 13 for 30. Yeah, touchdown. He also rushed for 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. Benson, 111 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns in this one. FSU did have more passing yards in this game than Florida. Florida's Richardson, 198 passing yards. He was 9 for 27. 3 touchdowns, though. But he did throw a pick. Etienne, can never say his name right. Etienne, 129 rushing yards and a touchdown. Pearsall, 148 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. They did have more rushing yards than Florida State did. Each team only had 1 turnover in this game. So if you can't have 0, that's the next best thing. However, Florida did have a lot more penalties than Florida State. Florida State ends up 9-3. Florida 6-6. Florida was a weird team this year. Get the new coach, Napier from Louisiana, and you think, hey, he's not a bad coach. Look what he's done over Louisiana. Then that Utah game, you're like, wow, Florida might be something to watch this year if they're beating Utah. And then it's just all down, up the whole season. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the offseason. Fresno State shuts out Wyoming 30-0. Fresno State's Hainer, 183 passing yards and a touchdown. Mims rushed for 3 touchdowns. Wyoming, Paisley, 104 passing yards. He threw 2 picks. Each team had over 70 yards in penalties. Fresno State, 8-4. Wyoming ends 7-5. That brings us to Saturday, crazy-ass Saturday. This is what we should be calling it. South Carolina beats Clemson 31-30. After what South Carolina's been doing these last half of the season, I thought they would have a chance to go in and beat Clemson. So this isn't really a surprise to me. Clemson's still in the ACC game, so championship game. So you wonder if they said, South Carolina, we beat them all the time. We ain't gonna have no problem. Yeah, well, they had a problem. So South Carolina winning wasn't really that much of a surprise to me. Clemson was up by 9 at the half. They let South Carolina back in it. Rattler, 360 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. He did throw 2 picks. Wells Jr., 131 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Kicker Jader kicked a 35-yard field goal. South Carolina was 3 for 13 on 3rd down. 414 total yards. Only 54 rushing yards in this game. Clemson's DJ, 99 passing yards, touchdown, threw an interception. He did rush for a touchdown. Shipley, 132 rushing yards and a touchdown. Trader had a 35-yard pick six. Clemson was 7 for 16 on third down, 336 total yards, only 99 passing yards in this game for them. They only have 3 penalties, though, for 23 yards. Things seem to work in their favor a little bit, but South Carolina beat them. South Carolina finished the regular season 8-4. Clemson finished 10-2. Maryland just all over Rutgers, 37-0. Taulia from Maryland, 342 passing yards and a touchdown. Hemby, 70 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Jones, 152 receiving yards and a touchdown. And kicker, see if I can read my writing here, Raylan, 3 field goals for Maryland. Rutgers, only 7 first downs in this game and 135 total yards. Got a lot of work to do. Maryland kind of fell off the hill, I guess you would say, a little bit. They were doing really well. Kind of fell down, got back up. I think the program's moving in the right direction, though. So, Rutgers, I don't know what to say about you guys, what you're going to do. Maryland, 7-5. Rutgers finishes 4-8. West Virginia beats Oklahoma State, 24-19. Anderson for West Virginia, 155 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Green, no passing touchdowns, but he did rush for a touchdown. And Oklahoma State's Gordon, 136 rushing yards and a touchdown. West Virginia ends up 5-7. Oklahoma State 7-5, which is crazy because Oklahoma State seemed to be a machine at the beginning of the season, really all the way until about the halfway point, maybe a little farther. Man, then they just started losing games. Crazy how that works. Very good game here, unless you're a Buckeye fan. I enjoyed it. You know, really, I'm going to be honest with you. At first, I wasn't going to watch this game. I said, Michigan's good. Ohio State's better. Do I even watch this game? Maybe I'll watch another game. Because I figured Ohio State was going to win. I actually figured they were going to win by a couple touchdowns, too, just because C.J. Stroud and all their offensive power. So I said, you know what? It's the game. Let me go ahead and watch it. Classic, college football, classic rivalry. I'm glad I did because that turned out to be a really good game. Unless you're a Buckeye fan, like I said. Game was actually a 3-point game at halftime. Michigan ends up winning 45-23. Michigan's McCarthy, 263 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He ran for a touchdown. Edwards, 216 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 75-yarder and an 85-yarder. Johnson, 160 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, 69-yard and a 75-yard touchdown catches. And the crazy thing is they only have 15 first downs in this game. 7 for 16 on third down, but they did come out with 530 total yards. They were 5 for 30 on penalties. Ohio State side, Stroud, 349 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Egbuka, 125 receiving yards and a touchdown. Ruggles, he kicked 3 field goals for the Buckeyes. Buckeyes were 5 for 16 on third down, 492 total yards, 9 penalties for 91 yards. Unsportsmanlike and PIs, they killed them, especially towards the end of the game. And crazy is Ohio State went the entire second and third quarters without converting on third down, which is unheard of for them. That's just nuts. Michigan's McCarthy, this is kind of weird because at first, he really didn't have a good first quarter. Like I said, when that first drive of Ohio State, when they went just great drive, went downfield, scored that touchdown. So let me see what Michigan can do. Michigan get down there. All they can mess up is a field goal. I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't have watched this game. And it looks like it's going to be typical Ohio State run away with it eventually. But man, after that first quarter, I don't know if something lit a fire under McCarthy's ass or Jim Harbaugh got in his ear. Because from second, third, fourth quarters, man, he played lights out. He played a lot better than people thought he was going to. And they didn't have Blake Corum. He came in for one series, I think, and tried to plant and cut up it through the middle. And the plant just wasn't working for him, so they ended up taking him out. So maybe that's when McCarthy turned it on and said, hey, we ain't got Corum. We got to do this without him, so let's do it. Because second, third, and fourth quarter, totally different quarterback. So Michigan 12-0, Ohio State 11-1. Kind of like the old days with John Cooper. They'd mow through the season. When they got to Michigan, they'd lose. People would say, "Well, we're 11-1. Let's better than 1-11." So I don't know. Boy, that game next year, that's gonna be. Ohio State's gonna be pissed losing 2 in a row to the people they hate. So that game, you're already looking forward to that game next year because God, dog, that's gonna be a good one probably. Georgia had a little trouble with Georgia Tech at the beginning, but they win 37-14, 3-point game at halftime. Georgia Tech, boy, they fire their coach, they start winning, start giving teams fits. That's crazy. Bennett for Georgia, 140 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. McIntosh rushing touchdown. Milton, 44-yard touchdown run. Georgia Tech, let's see if I can say this guy's name. Formaca? Anyway, yeah, rushing touchdown. Carter had a 24-yard touchdown catch. Once again, like we said, Georgia starts off slow and sluggish. Tech took advantage of it. That Georgia performance is going to tie into a comment on the LSU A&M game later. Stay tuned. Marshall beat Georgia State. Georgia 12-0. Georgia Tech ends up 5-7. Almost made that bowl game. Marshall 28, Georgia State 23. Fancher for Marshall 208 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. LeBourne 100 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Granger, Georgia State 291 passing yards and a touchdown. Thrash 155 receiving yards and a touchdown. Georgia State's defense, though, they had 7 sacks. Marshall 8-4. Georgia State ends 4-8. You wonder if Grayson McCall hadn't gotten injured, how this game would have turned out. James Madison 47, Coastal Carolina 7. Santillo for James Madison, who's a great quarterback. 287 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown. Ravenel 102 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Coastal Carolina's Mobley, he had 33-yard touchdown catch. They had 183 total yards in this one. Yeah, since I think they did win last week, if I remember. But since Grayson McCall went down, the backups having to play, you just wonder how the same season would have ended had he not got hurt. But it's a big what if. James Madison 8-3. They still got another game left. Coastal Carolina 9-2. They got another game left. Army beats poor little UMass 44-7. Army's Tyler 67 passing yards, 101 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns though. So Army typical running team. Buchanan had 2 rushing touchdowns. They had 1 penalty for 5 yards. Maybe that's a trend this week. Each week we have a trend. A lot of these teams have 1 penalty. So UMass's Campiotti, 2-yard touchdown run, gave them the 7 points. Army 5-6. They got Navy in a couple weeks. UMass 1-11. They're going to go back to the drawing board now, figure out what's going on here. This game here, I didn't think this was going to happen. New Mexico State 49, Liberty 14. That's crazy. Pavia from New Mexico State, 214 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, ran for 125 yards, and 3 more touchdowns. So that guy had a hell of a game. 428 total yards for New Mexico State. Liberty Salter, 101 passing yards and a touchdown. They ended up 315 total yards. New Mexico State, 5-6. Still got 1 left. Liberty, 8-4. Hugh Freeze is the coach of Liberty. A lot of rumors on Friday and Saturday that Auburn's going to talk to him. Do they talk to him now that he lost to New Mexico State? Crazier things have happened, but I don't know. If I'm at Auburn, I'm like, do we really want this guy? He just lost to a team that's been horrible for years. I don't know. Western Kentucky 32, Florida Atlantic 31. This game was 7-7 at halftime. Western Kentucky's Reed, 410 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown. Corley, 127 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Perry for Florida Atlantic is a pretty good quarterback. 283 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. McCammon, 2 rushing touchdowns. Edrine, 2 touchdown catches. Western Kentucky ends the season at 8-5. Florida Atlantic 5-7. South Alabama 27, Old Dominion 20. Bradley for South Alabama, 190 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Wolf for Old Dominion, not too bad himself. 285 yards, 2 touchdown passes. Watson, 110 rushing yards. He had a TD catch for Old Dominion. South Alabama, 10-2. Old Dominion, 3-9. Eastern Carolina barely beats Temple, 49-46. Allers for Eastern Carolina. He was a pretty good quarterback himself. We got a lot of good quarterbacks in college. See how they transition to the NFL when they get there, because a lot of times that doesn't work. Anyway, he had 314 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Mitchell, 222 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, and a touchdown catch. The guy had a hell of a game. Warner for Temple, 527 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Wow. Smith had 2 touchdown catches. There's another team, Temple, 1 penalty for 5 yards. Also for Eastern Carolina, Hatfield, he had a 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. He was hustling. East Carolina 7-5, Temple 3-9. This game went into overtime. Kent State 30, Buffalo 27. Kent State's Flatowski, 102 passing yards and a touchdown. Cooper, 145 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Buffalo's Myers, 109 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Damn ground game going there. Each defense had 3 sacks and forced a turnover in this one. Kent State 5-7, Buffalo 5-6. Akron beats Northern Illinois 44-12. Under Cuffler for Akron, 312 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Adams, 157 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Durant had a 76-yard pick 6. For Northern Illinois, Richardson. All their points came from the kicker Richardson. 4 field goals. He made them all. They ended up with 261 total yards, 17 first downs. They were 4 for 18 on 3rd down. Akron 2-9. Northern Illinois 3-9. Rice Owls barely missed the bowl game. North Texas beats them 21-17. Actually tied at 14 at halftime. Looks like they had a chance. North Texas quarterback, never say his name. Own. 203 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Ragsdale, 122 rushing downs. 122 rushing yards, touchdown run, and a touchdown catch. Rice's Paget, 229 passing yards, touchdown. He threw an interception. This game, each team had under 20 first downs. So the offense was kind of, North Texas 7-5, Rice 5-7. Rice Owls, I support them because they're just down the road. I go to their games a lot. Maybe next year. You're getting there. Kentucky 26, Louisville 13. Levis for Kentucky, 188 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Ruffalo, 4 field goals in this one for Kentucky. For Louisville, Dolman, 129 passing yards, touchdown. He threw an interception. Rodriguez for Kentucky did rush for 120 yards. Not too bad of a day for him. No touchdowns, though. Kentucky, 7-5. Louisville, 7-5. Kentucky, another one of those teams that saw their season a lot better back in the summertime. It is what it is. Duke had a good year this year. They beat Wake Forest 34-31. Duke's Leonard, 391 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Hagens, 139 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Hartman for Wake Forest, 347 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Wake Forest defense did have 3 sacks in this one. Duke 8-4, Wake Forest 7-5. Wake Forest, North Carolina State. Probably 2 other teams in the ACC that thought their season was going to be a lot better than it is. But hey, Duke, maybe they thought they could be 8-4, but whatever, they did it. Had a good season. Purdue beats Indiana 30-16. This was a 4-point game at halftime. O'Connell for Purdue, 290 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Mokabe, 99 rushing yards, touchdown. Jones, 143 receiving yards and a touchdown. Indiana, Baszler, 201 passing yards and a touchdown. Lucas, 100 rushing yards and a touchdown. Listen to these numbers here. Third down, Purdue was 2 for 9. Indiana, 6 for 18. Purdue, 388 total yards. Indiana, 421. Purdue, 98 rushing yards. Indiana, 215 rushing yards. Purdue, O'Connell was sacked 3 times. Indiana, Baszler sacked for 3 times, but they only had 3 penalties. In a lot of categories, Indiana was better than Purdue in this game. Purdue still managed to pull it out and win. Kind of crazy how numbers work. This is weird. Purdue 8-4, Indiana 4-8. I know Indiana had high hopes. Even some of the guys on TV were talking about Indiana. It's probably going to go to a bowl game, probably be better than 6-6, but they ended up 4-8 and just didn't work out. Northwestern. I root for Northwestern. Northwestern, what are we going to do with you? You win 1 game in August, and that was it. Did give Ohio State a hell of a game there for a while in that one, but back to the drawing board. Damn. Illinois 41, Northwestern 3. Illinois, Love the third, rushing touchdown. DeVito had a rushing touchdown. Brown had a 53-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. Brown had a 39-yard pick six. Illinois was looking good. Northwestern, Freeman, 93 passing yards, 4 picks is what he threw in this one. The 3 points, though, Stage kicked a 28-yard field goal. Illinois, 8-4. Y'all were almost there. Y'all were almost representing the West. Things got a little dicey the last few weeks, lost a few. Northwestern, like I said, win your first game in August. The rest of them you lose. Y'all got a lot of work to do this offseason. Minnesota beats Wisconsin 23-16. See if I can say his name right. Kalikmanis from Minnesota. 319 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Trickett kicked 3 field goals at this one for the Gophers. Wisconsin's Dyke had a 9-yard TD rush. Their kicker, Van Zelst, he kicked a 40-yarder, 43-yarder, 36-yard field goal. Hey, right there, 1, 2, 3. That's 9 points right there. He kicked them. So Minnesota ends up 8-4. Wisconsin 6-6. See if they get Luke Fickell. Troy beats Arkansas State 48-19. Vidal for Troy, 208 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. Stewart had a 67-yard pick six. Blackman for Arkansas State, he had a 30-yard TD run, about their only highlight. Troy ends up 10-2. Arkansas State 3-9. UAB beats Louisiana Tech 37-27. UAB's Hopkins, touchdown pass. McBride, 272 rushing yards and a touchdown. Louisiana Tech's Turner, 167 passing yards and a touchdown. Thornton, 132 rushing yards and a touchdown. UAB finishes 6-6. La Tech 3-9. San Jose State beats Hawaii 27-14. San Jose State's Corderio, decent quarterback, 208 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Robinson, 148 rushing yards and a touchdown. Cooks, 121 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Hawaii Shaker, 230 passing yards and a touchdown. Fiso, he had a 22-yard touchdown catch. Shipley kicked 2 field goals for Hawaii. San Jose State 7-4. Hawaii 3-10. Civil War, boy, hell of a game. Unfortunately, I didn't see it. I was watching another game. Oregon State 38, Oregon 34. This is crazy because Oregon State was down by 21 in the third quarter when they came back. Gulbranson for Oregon State ran for 2 touchdowns. Newell rushed for 2 touchdowns. Defense committed 3 turnovers. They were 3 for 9 on third down, 328 total yards, 3 for 37 on penalties. For Oregon, Nix, 327 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Coda, 136 receiving yards and a touchdown. Whittington, 81 rushing yards and a touchdown. They were 5 for 14 on third down, 470 total yards in this one. Both Oregon schools end up 9-3. Iron Bowl, Alabama 49, Auburn 27. Auburn actually played decent the first quarter, and then Alabama started running away with it. Young, 343 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown for Alabama. They had 516 total yards. And in 2022, Alabama fashion this year, they had 11 penalties for 102 yards. Auburn's Ashford, 77 passing yards, touchdown. But he ran for 121 yards and a touchdown. They ended up with 395 total yards. Alabama 10-2. Auburn ends up 5-7. SMU beats Memphis 34-31. This was another close game at halftime, 3-point game. Mordecai, I think I said it right. Mordecai, said it right second time. 228 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Levine, 64 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Rice had a 24-yard touchdown catch. Hennigan for Memphis, 287 passing yards and a touchdown. Smith, Martin, and Rogers all had rushing touchdowns for Memphis. SMU 7-5. Memphis ends up 6-6. UTSA 34. UTEP 31. UTSA's Harris, really good quarterback. 382 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Ogle Kellogg, 142 receiving yards and a touchdown. Taylor, 72-yard pick 6. Maybe that's the theme of this weekend. Pick 6s, we had some long ones. Brown Holtz for UTEP, 189 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for a touchdown. He did throw 2 picks. UTEP was up 24 to nothing in the second quarter. UTSA finally woke up and came back and won. UTSA, another great season, ended up 10-2. UTEP, they're slowly working on it. They're 5-7. Southern Miss beat Louisiana Monroe 20-10. Caston for Southern Miss, he had a 29-yard touchdown catch. Gore Jr. had a 33-yard touchdown run. For Monroe, Rogers, he threw a TD pass to Henry. Southern Miss 6-6. Law Monroe 4-8. Utah beats up Pueblo, Colorado 63-21. Reesing 234 passing yards, 17 for 19. 3 touchdowns. Jackson 117 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Kincaid 102 receiving yards and a touchdown. For Colorado, Kopp 123 passing yards and a touchdown. They had 12 first downs in this game. They were 1 for 12 on third down, 185 total yards. So whoever comes to Colorado, whether it's be Deion Sanders like some people are saying, they got a lot of work to do. Some of you old-timers like me remember Colorado. They used to be a powerhouse. They were a national powerhouse. Hell, they won the national championship, won conference titles. Always seemed to be battling Nebraska for the conference crown back in the old Big 8. Man, they have fallen so far, but whoever comes, they got a lot of work to do. Utah, 9-3. Colorado, 1-11. Penn State, 35. Michigan State, 16. Clifford for Penn State, 202 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Johnson had 2 touchdown catches. Michigan State's Thorne, 229 passing yards, touchdown, ran for a touchdown. Penn State's Lambert Smith, he had a 35-yard touchdown catch, and he also threw a 48-yard touchdown to Johnson. So he was doing double duty. Penn State 10-2, Michigan State 5-7. I expect Michigan State to be a lot better this year than 5-7. Not saying they were going to win their division or Big Ten, but man, I think they'd have at least 8-9 wins. But they kind of fell apart. People doubting TCU. They beat Iowa State 62-14. Dugan, 212 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. This team's just really good. People just don't want to admit it for some reason. Miller, 2 rushing touchdowns. Hudson had 2 touchdown catches. Bradford had a 36-yard pick 6. Newton had a 57-yard pick 6. For Iowa State, Deckers, 106 passing yards and a touchdown. TCU 12-0, Iowa 4-8. If I remember right, TCU is going to play Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. Already beat them once. Sometimes it's kind of hard to beat a team twice, so we'll see. We'll see what happens this weekend. Louisiana 41, Texas State 13. Louisiana's Fields 187 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Par for Texas State, 221 rushing yards and a touchdown. Keller kicked 2 field goals. Louisiana ends up 6-6. Texas State ends up 4-8. UNLV, another team that's really improved from their past few years. They beat Nevada, their rival, 27-22. Nevada was actually better on 3rd and 4th down than UNLV. Had more first downs, had more everything, passing yards, more rushing yards. And UNLV still won. That's crazy, isn't it? Like we say, numbers, they're just weird sometimes. UNLV, 5-7. Not too bad. Nevada, 2-10. They got some work to do. Next one went into 2 overtimes. Georgia Southern 51, Appalachian State 48. Van Treese for Georgia Southern, 385 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and he also ran for a touchdown. App State Noel, 171 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Pretty good day for him. Both these teams ended up 6-6. Still go back to App State. They were everybody's darling back in September, and now they finished 6-6. Middle Tennessee beat Florida International 33-28. Cunningham for Middle Tennessee, 279 passing yards, ran for a couple touchdowns. Thomas had a 28-yard pick 6. Carlson for FIU, 414 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, but he threw 4 picks in this one. Ugh. Fairweather, 152 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. Not too bad for him. Oh, Middle Tennessee. Remember, they were on a high. A lot of the country was on a high about them when they beat Miami. Then they just kind of tanked from there. I don't know if that game wore them out and they figured they could beat anybody after beating Miami. Now we know Miami's not a good team. But hey, they finished the season 7-5. So Florida International 4-8. Texas A&M 38. LSU 23. A&M Wingman, 155 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. A Kane, man, hell of a game for him. 215 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. LSU's Daniels, 189 passing yards, 84 rushing yards, no touchdowns. But Emory Jr., good game. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. LSU started off the usual LSU, flat, sluggish. You kept waiting for them to bust into that second quarter to second half LSU team that we see that just takes off. Never happened. So A&M ends up 5-7, no bowl game. LSU 9-3, got to go play Georgia in the SEC championship game. So the way LSU is playing, I figured, okay, A&M, we're just not good this year. LSU's going to win. And I was actually going to say, if Georgia starts off slow, like in the SEC championship game, like they did against Georgia Tech and all some of these other teams, LSU doesn't start off slow and takes off fast, gets into that LSU groove early in the game, hey, they may have a chance to upset Georgia. Not anymore. Forget it. After what I just saw last night, no. I don't know what LSU team that was. That wasn't the one we've been seeing the last few weeks. And, even though A&M won, that kind of makes me hate Jimbo Fisher even more. Where the hell was this coaching and this playing throughout the whole year? So, yeah, I'm glad we won, but it just made my hatred towards Jimbo Fisher grow even more. The only bright side for me right now is Weigman, quarterback. He looks pretty good. A lot better than Haynes King. Don't know about if he'd be better than Max Johnson. Johnson got hurt, but after seeing what Johnson's done the last couple of years, I don't know. So that's the only bright spot as an Aggie fan I got going into next year. Is that quarterback, because look who the coach is. Guys, pissed me and Aggie fans off so much these last couple of years. All right, I'm done. UCF 46, South Florida 39. South Florida was making a run at them. Keene for UCF, 129 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Rice Plumlee, 132 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Brown for South Florida, 140 passing yards and a touchdown. He also ran for 109 and 2 touchdowns. Central Florida was leading 28-7 at halftime. South Florida actually outscored them 32-18 in the second half to make a run at it. Came up a little short. Central Florida pulls it out. Central Florida 9-3. South Florida 1-11. South Florida, they got a lot of work to do. Syracuse 32. Boston College 23. Boston College led this game at halftime. Schrader for Syracuse, 285 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Tucker, 125 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. They actually outscored Boston College 26-13 in the fourth quarter to win. Boston College's Moorhead, 252 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Flowers, 110 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns in that one. Syracuse ends up 7-5. Boston College 3-9. USC beats Notre Dame 38-27. USC's Williams, 232 passing yards, touchdown, and he also ran for 3 touchdowns. A lot better rushing game than Notre Dame had. Notre Dame's Pine, 318 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Mayer, 98 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Notre Dame had the better passing game in this one. They made that run in them, but I figured USC was going to win. But you gotta give credit to Notre Dame. They made a run in this game. USC 7-1, Notre Dame 8-4, which you gotta be happy if you're a Notre Dame fan, considering the way this season started out. Your only good game at the beginning of the season was that loss to Ohio State because you were in that game and you played it. But man, some of these other losses, man, you gotta be really happy if you're an Irish fan about because where you were in September, you were thinking, man, what are we gonna? I'm not even going to go to a bowl game, but hey, turn it around. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and admit the role that Vandy's been on and the low that Tennessee is on playing in Nashville. I'm going to say it. I thought Vanderbilt was going to upset Tennessee. Call me dumb, call me stupid, but I was just going by what I've seen the last few weeks. But boy, was I wrong. Tennessee came into Nashville and beat down Vandy in their own backyard, man. Milton played for the injured Hooker, 147 passing yards and a touchdown. Wright, 160 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Hayball, 73-yard punt return for a touchdown. Small had 2 rushing touchdowns for Tennessee. Vandy, nothing. Tennessee ends up 10-2. Vanderbilt ends up 5-7. Vanderbilt fans, you got a lot to look forward to. Man, the way you played these last few weeks, your season was crazy. Started off 3-0, lost until you started winning some at the end. So you got to really be happy about where your program is going. Even though you're 5-7, not going to a bowl game, man, you got to be happy. You really do. Because my A&M team's 5-7. Guess what? I'm not freaking happy. But Vandy fans, you should be happy about which direction y'all are going. Can't wait to see what happens next year. Tulsa comes to Houston and beats the Cougars 37-30. Braxton for Tulsa, 316 passing yards, 3 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Santana, 169 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Long kicked 3 field goals. Houston's Tune, 386 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Dell returned to punt 68 yards for a touchdown. Ramsey kicked 3 field goals. Tulsa 5-7, Houston 7-5. 2 teams that they thought they were going to be better than this. Tulsa, they usually have a pretty good team every year. You know that they thought that at least they'd go to a bowl game, maybe even further. Houston, the way they've played the last several years, you figured they might have 8, 9, 10 wins this season. It just didn't happen. One of those seasons. All right, this is a crazy game here. Overtime. Texas Tech 51, Oklahoma 48. 1-point game at halftime too. Show for Texas Tech, 436 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Thompson, 2 rushing touchdowns. Bradley, 173 receiving yards and a touchdown. Oklahoma's Gabriel, 449 passing yards and 6 touchdowns. Crazy. Mims, 162 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. First up in overtime, OU, they got held to a field goal, missed it. Texas Tech got the ball. All they had to do was just get some yardage and get the field goal, which they did. Won in overtime. I think they said it's the first time in a long time, or who knows, maybe forever, that Texas Tech beat both Oklahoma and Texas in the same year. So anyway, yeah, Texas Tech 7-5, Oklahoma 6-6. If you're an OU fan, are you pissed? Is this about right? You figured, hey, new coach, got to get all the system into place and all this stuff. See what happens next year. If you're 6-6 again next year, maybe Venerables wasn't the man, but who knows. Pitt beat Miami 42-16. Pitt Slovis 256 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Abanikanda 111 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Wayne had 199 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Hell of a game. Miami's Garcia 192 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Mallory 103 receiving yards and a touchdown. Pitt defense 6 sacks and forced 3 turnovers. Pitt 8-4, Miami 5-7. Pitt, you could probably go ahead and throw those in with the other teams, NC State and Wake Forest, that thought their seasons were going to be better and they might challenge for the ACC title. Miami, I don't know what to say about you guys. No, I really don't. 8-4 Pitt, Miami 5-7. I think one thing that would probably help Miami is to get out of that dumbass looking pro stadium where nobody goes to see your games and build something closer to campus. Something to get that atmosphere going like the old Orange Bowl did. Remember when you, in the old Orange Bowl, everybody that came there to play you feared you because of that atmosphere and what y'all did in that stadium. Y'all got to find some way to get that back. And I think building a stadium close to campus would probably do that. I think one of the guys on TV said, on a good day, going from campus to the stadium is like almost an hour. So I mean, if you watch Miami games, it's like hardly anybody goes. They just don't have that like they used 2 years ago. This is probably one of the dumbest looking stadiums I've ever seen. I mean, it really is. It's like somebody took a cardboard box, flipped the lids open, and put a football field in there. I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, it really is. So, Miami, you got some work to do. Battle of the Sunflower State, is that what they call it? Kansas State beats Kansas 47-27. Howard for Kansas State, 213 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Vaughn, 147 rushing yards and a touchdown. Knowles, 2 rushing touchdowns. Daniels, he was back for Kansas, 168 passing yards, a rushing touchdown. Neal had 2 rushing touchdowns. KU played pretty hard and competitive in the first half, but the second half came along and Kansas State just kind of shut them down. Only held them to 6 points in the second half. Made major adjustments during halftime and came out and showed Kansas State 9-3, Kansas 6-6. But if you're a Kansas fan, you got to be happy with what's going on here. And that's why they signed Leopold to an extension. I mean, 6-6, you can only build up from there. I mean, if I was a Kansas fan, I'd be happy. Plus, you got basketball coming up, so you should really be happy. Air Force beats San Diego State 13-3. Roberts for Air Force, 187 rushing yards and a touchdown. DePore kicked 2 field goals. Browning for San Diego State, 26-yard field goal. He didn't do that until the third quarter. They finally scored in the third quarter. San Diego State, one of those Mountain West teams that have been doing good the last few years, but this year they're just kind of average. Air Force 9-3, San Diego State 7-5. Apple Cup, Washington 51, Washington State 33. Penix Jr. for the Huskies, 485 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 2 touchdowns. They were 11 for 13 on third down, 703 total yards in this game. But they did have 104 yards of penalties. Washington State's Ward, he's a good quarterback. I like him. 332 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown. Washington 10-2. Washington State in 7-5. And the last one, BYU. I don't know what happened to BYU. They beat Stanford though 35-26. Hall for BYU, 93 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, rush for a touchdown. Rex had 2 touchdown catches. BYU had 0 penalties in this game. McKee for Stanford, 313 passing yards and a touchdown. Trey Main, 130 receiving yards and a touchdown. BYU ends up 7-5, which is crazy. I figured they'd be a lot better than that. Stanford ends up 3-9. David Shaw steps down after that. All right, we're going to do these FCS playoff games real quick, and that'll be it. Furman beat Alien, first round. Furman beat Alien 31-6. Delaware beat St. Francis, Pennsylvania 56-17. New Hampshire beat Fordham 52-42. Richmond beat Davidson 41-0. Weber State beat North Dakota 44-31. Gardner-Webb beat Eastern Kentucky 52-41. Southeast Louisiana, they've had a pretty damn good team these last few years. They beat Idaho 45-42. Montana beat Southeast Missouri State 34-24. I've already seen it. Montana will play North Dakota State Bison next weekend. And the Bayou Classic in New Orleans. Battle of the Bands. You know, they have that big band competition at halftime. Southern beat Grambling 34-17. All right, that's it. Enjoy the rest of what's left of your long Thanksgiving weekend. Like I said, it sucks. But hey, Christmas will be here soon, so you can get some more days off. And I'll be looking forward to that. Anyway, we'll be back probably Wednesday, Thursday, to do the championship weekend preview. Go over that. We'll go over the teams that are finishing up their season. There's I forget how many, but there's a few teams that are going to be finishing up their season on that weekend. So you'll have just regular, football games, not championship games like we always do. We'll go over FCS. Basketball, really starting to get into full swing now. Some of these tournaments, you're having top teams match up. They're going to start hitting each other here in the next few weeks because December, it seems like you always get top matchups of top teams in basketball. So we'll see what's coming up here in December for that. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Like I said, I know tomorrow's Monday after holiday weekend sucks. If you got to work it, don't fear. Act like you're working. Put this on and listen to some college sports talk. That'll help you get through Monday, I promise. Anyway, be careful. We'll see you next time.